Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening. I can see 28 people already, and we expect many more people to join us. I want to start this evening by introducing myself. My name is Bimbo Komolafe, and I will be your host for this evening. We're bringing this program to you on the platform of Finance Coach BK, a financial literacy platform. The only goal of this platform is to make sure that as many people as we can get to financial freedom and financial independence. Finance Coach BK does this by teaching financial education and collaborating with experts to teach financial education so that people can get financially fit, learn money skills, and avoid money mistakes and grow their wealth. Financial education, I like to say to people, is not a one-off thing. It's a continuous thing. You have to continue to learn, and you have to also put in some effort and some action to make sure you achieve your desired financial goals and targets. This evening, we have two speakers, Yang and Coyote, and then we'll take some stories from members of SMP35. I want everyone that joins us or those already on the call to understand that there's something for everybody this evening. Doesn't matter the season of life that you're in. You might still be in active business or active employment. You might be semi-retired or pre-retired, or be in your pre-retirement season or already retired. Between what Coyote and Ian will share with us this evening, you would certainly take something away. I said it already, we have one goal, and earlier on before the program started, Coyote was saying we all need to be financially free because retirement will come whether we like it or not. Okay, we want to say thank you, a very big thank you to the Alumni Association of Lagos Business School Senior Management Program 35, who have come together to organize this program. Together with Ian, the founder of the Bloombox platform and the Finance Coach BK platform, we're bringing this to you free of charge. But ordinarily, the content that you will be getting this evening is supposed to be paid for. We are very happy to be able to give back, and we are grateful to God that we're in a position to do that. Because we don't have much time, we want to maximize the 90 minutes that we have. I'm going to quickly go to introducing our first speaker. Now, if you can see my screen very well, you can see a picture of the friendship that started, I think 14 years ago now. 2009 was when we had this 3-month program. And we have remained as friends, and we have remained as brothers and sisters. We help ourselves. And now we're taking it forward to helping even people beyond the association. So we thank everyone who is partnering with SMP35 this evening. We thank Mrs. Ian Samuel very much. And Coyote is an alumni. He's a member of the group, but he's also a very busy executive. So we are very grateful to him also for working with us to bring this program to all of you. Okay, so our first speaker, she's called the Retirement Planning Queen online, for those of you that are very active online. That's why we are very grateful that we have her speaking with us this evening. Thank you, madam. I'm going to spotlight you and also make you co-host after introducing you so that you can share your screen. Not host. Okay, I already made you a co-host. Okay, great. So yes, she has a very long profile, but I don't have all the time this evening to read her profile to you. But she has over 35 years working experience. Her working life has taken her through different organizations, which include 10 years with IBTC, when it was IBTC, now Stanbic IBTC. She worked with Crusader Sterling Pensions Limited, and then she also worked with the Guarantee Trust Group, where she was the head of business development, managing some high net worth clients. She worked in a subsidiary of the group called GT Assurance PLC. Young is currently the managing partner of Averty Professional Managers. It's a firm of 3 professional women offering management consulting, financial advisory services, audit, tax advisory, and accountancy, training, process and systems design, and implementation. That's a mouthful. And I still try to shorten this bio. She's also the founder of the Bloombox platform, where she facilitates and coaches on retirement planning. Thank you so much, Madam, for joining us this evening. You have 20 minutes, and then we'll come back to you, for the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Bimbo, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for indulging me. Bimbo, if you could stop sharing your screen so I can share mine.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, can we all see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so I'll just dive into it. So, because tonight we're just going to talk about how to plan ahead for retirement, and even when we're in retirement, how do we manage our lives? My talking points tonight will focus on the psychology of retirement. How do we prepare? Financial planning and investment decisions, but I'm actually going to leave that to Kayode, who is really the guru. But I'll talk a bit about how to do a budget check for your retirement period. We'll talk about the Pension Reform Act, entrepreneurship in retirement, succession planning for those of us who plan to retire from our businesses. Of course, we're talking about older age, so we will look at wellness and healthy living, and predictably estate planning and legacy, and then we will sign out from there. Okay, so for me, what retirement really is just the process of laying the groundwork for achieving meaningful retirement. That is the planning in the retirement. When you talk to young people and you ask them what they think about retirement, many of them sort of feel, it's something that's so difficult for them to fathom because they feel they're still young. What could they be possibly discussing about, retirement? But, statistics have shown, and even I, in my work with a lot of pre-retirees and those that have now retired, I have discovered that most retirees claim that the most regretted thing or the costly mistakes they've made has to do with the fact that they did not start planning on time for their retirement, meaning that they started saving and investing very late, and therefore they did not have the retirement, lifestyle they really wanted. However, beyond that safety of, your nest egg, and every other thing that I provide, we've also found that your emotional readiness is sometimes more essential to making this transition, to retirement so that you can thrive at it. A lot of people, and I've come across quite a number who have retired with very tidy nest eggs, right? But how to then live that life, the day-to-day life of retirement, is now such a challenge for them. And for me, I usually like to delve a lot into the psychology and emotion of retiring, because sometimes that is the hidden part that people don't get to talk about. And so, because without emotional preparedness, a break in work routine can take toll on the mind. When people retire, what we have found is that, there's that initial sugar rush, where we are just excited to be done with, working life and all that. But within a few months, the lack of that routine now becomes a challenge because people wake up. What do you do from AM to PM? Many have not thought about it. So as we all near retirement, much of the conversation is frequently centered on financial preparedness. And that is the truth. But if you've done all that right and you have a financial plan in place, you've adjusted your portfolio according to whatever season of life you're in, you've even done all the what-if scenarios and everything is mapped out for you. What is often the last-minute thought and the rarely discussed aspect is the emotional side of this huge transition in life, and that is just it. Because what we find is that You know, in retirement, when you meet somebody who has just retirement, oh, I understand you just retired. Oh, yes. I mean, I just retired from. I feel that the conversation we should be having after we retired is, what am I retiring to? I mean, never mind what you retired from, you know, because now you're just trying to hold on to what you consider the relevant aspect of your life. And if I might add, this happens a lot more to men because a lot of men are defined, you know, by their job role, by what they do, you know. Women are just a bit better from what I have experienced and what statistics also show. So the question we should have at the back of our mind is, what am I retiring to? And not what I'm retiring from. Because that is what is going to give you a purpose in your retirement life. You know, there's a saying that I usually, you know, tell pre-retirees, and that comes from a story somebody once shared with me. You know, we used to work in the same bank and all that. And she said it was really, really a hilarious experience, but pretty sad at the end of it because when you retire, you know, those places you go to, and then because you are driving that Prado Jeep or Land Cruiser and all that, and the gate flies open as you arrive and all that, and or they ask you at the gate, oh, where are you from? Oh, you just reel off the name of your big organization, and the gates fly open. So she said she arrived at this organization she had always gone to. And you know, the gate man would always ask you that question, okay, from where? I mean, and Nigerian gate men do that a lot. I don't even know what that question means. From where? And she said for a moment she was to blank out because she couldn't now say, oh, I'm from so and so organization because she had retired. So what we find is that because many of us have held on to so many years of working at this big brand, that FMCG, that multinational, that big financial institution, that is what has defined us all this while. But when you come into retirement, the question then is, who are you? Without that title of GM this, ED that, manager this, and all that. You know, so we need to be very, very circumspect about that. I know when you retire, having a structure will normally allow you to sort of clean up on daily activities, what you do per hour, because that is what will then make your retirement purposeful and fulfilling. Why? Most of the past years, you have lived a life of structure. There's a time you wake up, you know, that's especially, I mean, if you live in a city like Lagos, I mean, you do have to have a wake up time, the time you leave home, you go to your office, you come back. So everything is sort of structured. The last thing you want to do when you retire is now to just, you know, throw up your hands and not have a routine. Because what will happen is that, I apologize because I think electricity has done its thing. So I would advise that because you have maintained some type of structure, you know, to your day all this while, having a set wake up time or routine activity or meal times and set bedtime, it can help you adjust, you know, within that transition. So what I'm saying is have a daily to-do list. Okay. I mean, I just sort of shared, you know, what my perfect retirement day is like. And it's an exercise I feel all of us should do. What is your perfect? I mean, not some days you'll get it right, some days you will not. But it helps to just sort of tell yourself that if I'm able to do this between these hours, I wake up this time, do this time, and all that, this when I go to bed, it gives you a sense of purpose because then you don't feel that you have retired into this, you know, enforced period of relaxation, you know. Still talking about psychology of retirement, some questions, you know, you should ask yourself as you are contemplating retirement. One, how old am I? Because some people want to retire as I've discovered at say 40. I mean, when I talk to millennials, their dream is to retire at 40, 45. But when they talk about retirement, it's not necessarily that, oh, they are retiring into nothingness. They're probably retiring from 9 to 5 to do something else. So ask yourself that question. Another question is, do I want to retire? Am I psychologically ready to retire? Because not all of us are. Some of us, even when our organizations have set a time frame for us, we still arrive at that destination totally unprepared. So we need to start wrapping our minds around it. Question, how do I want to spend my time in retirement? Because the thing is, by the time people retire, especially if you're going by, the Pension Reform Act for people that work in government, in, structured organizations, the retirement age is about 60, right? So imagine if you're retiring at 60, for example, and I ask you, and I get to ask people this all the time, that if God gave you the opportunity to say how many more years you want to live, when are you really ready to exit? And many of them will say, oh, maybe 85, maybe 90. Okay, get this. If you're 60 and you're retiring at that age, so this means that you have 30 years ahead of you. How can you be planning to live 30 years without a plan of how to, make that time a time of impact, or just even make it a fulfilling time for yourself? That's 1/3 of your life. Question, what will I be doing? And that thing that I'm doing, is it for passion? Is it for work? Because when you retire as well, you should ideally not retire to nothingness. Even if you want to take a break for some time, you'll find that because you are used to, what you've been doing, it may not work for you. So ask yourself, I'll be doing something, but is it for passion? Is it for living? How will I handle not having to go to work? Because there will be some withdrawal symptoms. Somebody has shared with me before how after 4 months of retiring, not even the first week, 4 months, one morning he woke up, had his bath, started dressing up. It was the process of knotting his tie. He realized he wasn't supposed to be going anywhere, you know. So how will you handle not having, is your mind in that space yet? How much will I miss the social contacts and friends at work? Because these are people that I've been working with for so many years. And whether we like it or not, our social contacts when we are working, will likely shrink. When we retire, will likely shrink. Statistics show that we could lose up to about 70% of our contacts. So it means that most of our contacts are work related. What will you do when you don't have that anymore? How much income do you even need in retirement? Or perhaps you should really be considering semi-retirement or a second career. Very important question. What impact will my retirement have on my family? Because if I don't know how old your children are, you and your spouse, you have to have those conversations, so that everybody is on the same table. What are the extended family needs? Because again, we are Africans. Those are real issues. What promises have you made to anybody? Who are you sponsoring? Can you still do it with your retirement funds? Very important questions to ask yourself. Or perhaps you want to get a part-time job to make ends meet if you discover that your pension would not be able to, provide the lifestyle that you did. Or question, how many years do I expect to receive pension? Yeah. So how do you prepare for retirement? I usually put it as something to laugh about, because some people have actually told me that this is their retirement plan. Especially women, that, oh, what will you be doing? My question, the answer I get is, oh, my children, they are all married. I'm going to be going for Omugwo and all that. But hey, my thing is, Omugwo is not a retirement plan. So don't even be planning to, wrap yourself around your children just because you then have a need in your retirement to be busy. So, okay, now we're going to talk about now going into retirement, because when we are planning, the idea is that you want comfort, you want security, but it doesn't just happen. There has to be a plan in place, and you have to commit to that plan. So first issue rather, picture yourself in retirement, because what I want in my retirement may be different from what you want, and most likely it would be, even starting from the age I want to retire and the age you want to retire. So paint that picture of retirement you want for yourself and just have it in your mind. Now estimate the resources that will be required to live that retirement lifestyle that you want, and start contemplating whether you are likely to have that, the resource. And start thinking of downsizing your debt if you have any, because the last thing you also want to be doing is using your pension funds to pay off any debt. So have you taken out a mortgage, car loan, whatever it is? the best practice is to ensure that you paid off all debt as at the time you retire, if possible, and calculate your likely retirement, income. What is likely to be coming to you? One of the ways you can do this, for those of us that are under the Pension Reform Act of 2014 in Nigeria, most PFAs have a pension calculator, on their website. So you can go there and plug in your figures, and it will give you a sense of what is likely to come to you monthly. Because if you don't even know that, it's difficult to put a plan in place. Of course, consider basic investment principles, but I mean, I'm just going to leave that to my brother Kayode. Very importantly, plan where you will live. Most of us, especially in Nigeria, those days when we were working, we took out loans, we built all these big mansions, for ourselves and our children, because, well, my children should not suffer what I suffered. So you build some mini chalets in your house for your children, everybody in their own self-contained, space and all that. Okay, so now you're an empty nester, most likely. The children are off to college. The truth is that from the time they get out to secondary school, you're not likely to have them fully at home anymore. So you should start questioning those big mansions that, we're all living in. What was it all about? And the last thing you want to do is then now go into retirement, living in those big, because one, maintaining them, two, most of the rooms are vacant anyway. So, I mean, what are you keeping those sort of assets for? One of the things you can do is plan. Sit with your spouse, talk about this. Where do you want to live? Do you even want to move out of the city? Do you want to move to the outskirts? Do you want to move to another state? I mean, if you live in Lagos, you want to move to Abeokuta, for example, because, I mean, of course, accommodation is cheaper, the taxes are less, and all that. So those are conversations you need to have. But the last thing you want to do is maintain a high maintenance, home that you've lived all your life, because it is not the sort of thing you want to use your retirement funds, to support. And then, of course, prepare your family and your children to understand that, all those cushy lifestyle they were having all this one, maybe not everything may be possible anymore. Please embrace digital, but I mean, I'm speaking here to a different category of people. So I imagine that this should not be an issue, because if you're not already doing online banking, if you're not already engaging, retailers online to shop, to do all that, because in retirement, you'll find that the help is, you're not as agile. The help you used to have may not be there anymore. So you need to be there and understand that most of your activities can actually be executed online, all kinds of transactions. So please embrace the digital if you haven't. And of course, create a financial plan and your budget check. And by budget check, I mean something like this. If you take a look at my screen, do this exercise of having a budget check. List all income sources you anticipate when you're in retirement. What is coming from your RSA, your gratuity or whatever name they call the benefit payments from your organization. If on your own, you have a personal savings account, if you have rent from property ownership, part-time, whatever it is, even your own personal pension, plan that you took out for yourself, please do all that. You can do it on an annual basis. People usually quarrel with me when I say, people say, oh no, what about children's financial support? But I say, why are you expecting your children to be supporting you in retirement? If they want to, if they can, it's okay. But I don't think it's something that we should actually put that kind of pressure on our children to do. If they can't, they are just starting life themselves. So I think we should cut them some slack. But if you do get some financial support from your children, all well and good. And now take a look at your expenses. Are you still repaying any mortgage? Are you living in a rented apartment? What's your annual rent? And for daily living, telephone, grocery, electricity, all your utility, entertainment, just be very realistic about this. List all of this. Personal expenditure, auto insurance, if you're still paying school fees. So list all this out. What this is able to tell you is how well you're likely to be doing in retirement. God forbid that you have a deficit. then it means that you do have to find some way to augment your income sources so that you have a much more comfortable retirement. Or perhaps it's time to trim off some expenses. I mean, we talked about things like extended family and all that. Maybe you can't support some people anymore. So perhaps it's time to have those difficult conversations and let them go. But you need to do this way before you retire so you can see how well, you're doing. And please take note that medical care costs will likely be higher later in life. If you are in employment and your employer has been, paying for your medicals, you're under some HMO, there are quite a few HMOs now that cater for senior citizens. So when you come into retirement, it's something you could consider, because being under a general HMO, I mean, you have things like antenatal and all that. You're not in that space anymore. So perhaps the space you are in is where, to see an ophthalmologist for your glasses, for your teeth, cancer screening, things like that, things that pertain to later life medical issues. So I think there are quite a number of health plans like that. Look at the affordability of it and whether you can accommodate it within your pension, funds. If you can't, of course, you have to think of how to augment, because this is really important. Because the last thing you want to do is to pay every time you go to the hospital out of your pension or retirement funds, right? I normally have this slide, but I'm actually going to skip it because I know Kayode is going to be talking a lot about this, but I just want to talk about self-development. Even as we are planning to retire, we must always be in that place where we are developing ourselves. One of the things it does, because when you come into retirement too, you may likely pivot into something else. I mean, those things you've always wanted to do that your job will not allow you to do. So maybe you now want to, reskill yourself, upgrade yourself in all those areas. And then, is it photography? Is it baking? Whatever your passion is. So go back there, retool yourself, update yourself, and make yourself very relevant in that space. So, like I always say, don't lose your swag just because, you retired. Right. So let's talk a bit about the Pension Reform Act. For those of us that are in employment, most likely we are under this. The advice here is to just continue to monitor your RSA. If you see the need, you can augment with additional voluntary contribution account. And for those of us who can, I would advise that you do open an AVC as well. If there's still some more you can do, because it all adds up to what comes to you by the time you retire. Bimbo has said that there's some of us that, wanted to know a bit more about the residential mortgage, under the new pension scheme. And this was a great piece of news for most of, us when we heard it, because really, what am I saving money for if some of the things I want to do in retirement, I cannot use my, funds in my RSA to access it. So I think kudos to PENCOM for doing this. The aim of this was to improve, of course, the standard of living of RSA holders, and the idea was to help facilitate their ownership of residential homes. So the new guideline was for those who are still in active employment. Truth is, if you are less than 3 years to retirement, you are not eligible for this. But hopefully, I mean, from what I see of the demographics here, I think quite a number of us would qualify. So you can access a maximum of 25% of your RSA balance towards equity contribution of a residential, mortgage plan, where the value is of 25% is lower than the equity contribution. You are then required to deposit the difference with the mortgage lender before you now access the 25% from your PFA. Okay. Of course, existing retirees do not qualify. And like I said, those who have less than 3 years to retirement are not eligible. So if you have 3 years plus to retirement, I think this is a brilliant thing that PENCOM has done. So you can go speak with your PFA to get, more clarification and know how to proceed. And then again, in 2019 as well, the Pension Reform Act was expanded to cover people that are in self-employment and those that are working in organizations with less than 3 people, So, I mean, this is great because the law had shut them out before. So if you work for yourself, you can approach a PFA. If you're self-employed, approach a PFA that you want to come under the scheme, and you have your own RSA. Even if you have irregular income, it is still, possible for you to come under the micro pension scheme. So for those who are also in that place, I think it's something that PENCOM has done that was highly applauded. So, and I think people that are also in unstructured, environment can also participate in this. Just for the benefit of those who don't know, these are all the PFAs. There are, how many of them? I think 22 of them now, because there was a recapitalization, recently. Right. So my time is going. I need to talk about entrepreneurship in retirement, because for many of us, when we retire, regardless of even if you retire at 60, there's still a lot you can do, and even if you do have the funds, to support yourself in retirement, the idea of just working your passion or giving back to the community or just staying active, or it could be something that just keeps you mentally alert, where you get to socialize with people, or again, out of necessity, yes, maybe something you have to do, because that is what is then going to supplement, your pension income or, whatever. So this is something that many of us, I mean, I am somebody that is in that space. So when you are working your own business, I mean, people always ask that, okay, so what do I do? I mean, this retirement thing, I mean, I work for myself. I'm a founder of my business. I've been running this by myself all these years. But a time will come when you probably can't do this anymore, or you actually are choosing to also step away. But you can't step away without having a succession plan, right? Because what you want to do is try to minimize the negative effects that your exit will have on the company. Except, of course, you have opted to, shut down the company, which is not necessary. And I think that is something that in Nigeria, many of us have experienced, where once the founder, is out, the business dies. You can transfer the business to maybe a family member or family members. That for many people is usually the preference, but sometimes it doesn't work that way, because also, I mean, I've spoken to clients who say, oh no, I mean, I was shocked that my daughter was not interested in taking over the business, or my son was not interested. But we never had the conversation with these children way ahead. We were working on an assumption that, oh, just because we've set up this business and it's doing pretty well, why shouldn't my child want to take over? Especially for some of us, maybe that child has even gone and read a similar course in university. So in your mind, oh, I'm running an architectural firm and one of my daughters is an architect, so why wouldn't she take over my business? But you never had the conversation with them. So it's important to bring them in early, have that conversation with them, let them know, and so that you can then know whether they're interested in taking over the business from you. Because if they're not, you could sell the company to an employee or a key partner, or sell to a total outsider, or worst case, close and liquidate the company. Not the best option, but in the event that there's no other option, that is probably what you have to do. And we also need to consider the many dimensions of wellness, because in retirement now, this is really important. We're in a place where you need to now go back. What's your social wellness, your occupational wellness, your physical wellness, environmental wellness? For those of us who have lived in Lagos most of our lives, environmental wellness, I mean, for many of us, is almost zero. So much noise, pollution, so much. I mean, the environment is really toxic a lot of time. So you need to be very mindful of those things. Your intellectual wellness, because you have to continue either reading, upskilling yourself, attend webinars. The last thing you want to do is allow your brain to die, because that is where, God forbid, depression, dementia, all those things come from. So watch out for that. Watch out for your emotional wellness as well. I mean, now, that's quite a strong thing, that people are very mindful of. And of course, your spiritual wellness. So, I mean, this is the time, and I think it happens automatically to a lot of people, where they're saying, oh, I need to spend more time with my creator now and all that. But where were you all this while? But that's aside. But seriously, also, you'll find that this is the time you want to embrace all this because you want to be, very mindful of your total wellness, right? I always say, eat light, exercise right, because in retirement, you are not so active anymore. So for you to be active, it has to be very deliberate, thing that you're doing. So intentionally set aside, daily exercise time. And indeed, any activity that increases your heart rate or builds your endurance, if you have gym membership, please be sure to use the gym. If you don't, if you live in an estate that is safe enough for you to walk, then please walk a few kilometers every day. But sedentary life is quite dangerous, as most of us know, and it gets worse in retirement because this body that you have been flogging all these years, and then all of a sudden things just go quiet. I mean, the body is likely to, react in ways that you might not like, right? So, as additional tips, I don't know whether I'm doing well for time. Probably am. Don't jump on any bandwagon. I would say that, and please understand that retirees are a target for too good to be true offers, oh, they are investing in this, and this happens a lot. I hope that Kayode too will talk about it. Don't do that because one, people are banking on the fact that you don't have a lot of knowledge in those areas. And my advice is if it's not a regulated space, you have no business investing in it because when it goes bust, there is no fallback. There's nobody to run to cry, right? So resist too good to be true offers. Ashebi has no value to your net worth. So this is not the time to be impressing anybody or buying Ashebi with your retirement fund. Please, try to be yourself. Be careful of internet scams. If you can, I know I've said we should be very digital savvy and all that, but still, I mean, spending lots of money ordering things online and paying before they are delivered. I think we should be very mindful of that. If it's not payment on delivery, you should be very careful if you don't know the retailer, right? Don't shop with a reckless friend because that will throw your monthly budget out of whack. And teach your children the value of money, teach them life skills. Because what happens is all these things that we have learned and we now want to put into practice, in our old age, God forbid that we have not raised our children to understand and the value of money or even to honor the hard work we have done to deliver the lifestyles that they are living to them. We've not taught them life skills. God forbid that those things could come back to haunt us, in our retirement where our children are just fasting, want to live and a life of entitlement and still want to be living off us, and from your retirement funds, you cannot fund that type of lifestyle, right? Lastly, I want to talk about estate planning. My question here is, if something happened to you, right? Would anyone know your passwords to either your bank account, investment account, whatever, your emails, even your iCloud, your the password to your safe, whatever? Would anyone know? Does anybody in the family have your bank information? Does your spouse or a child know all the banks that you have money? What about your will? Does anybody know whether you have a will or you don't have one? Does anybody else know how to open your safe other than you? And those documents you've been just piling up in cartons, you see of who of this land, that one there. And for many of us, we bought opportunities came. So, you bought, land all over the place. My advice, as you start getting into retirement, which means that maybe you're in your 50s, 60s, I think you should start consolidating. Because I can't even tell you how many clients I have come across who have that regret. Why? They know their children are all abroad. And many of us are living those sort of lifestyles now. I mean, I would like to assume. So something happens to you, God forbid, and you expect your children to now come and wait through these documents. You see your phone, they see one plot of land in Shango to Edo, another one, oh, you bought in Ikorodu, one house you opportunity came. I mean, For one, our children don't have the grit for that type of thing. So you're going to find that, God forbid, there will be a lot of wasted assets because they will just walk away because they don't have the energy to pursue all those things. So you start consolidating right now. Whatever needs to be sold, sell them, bring them into an investment account, or maybe buy some apartment or home or whatever in a more accessible place, right? We're also coming to that age where, the Bible says we should leave an inheritance for our children. Yes, we should, because it can help to give them a head start in life or just provide them with a safety net. The idea is not to spoil them, but just to soften the landing a bit for them. You could also live a life of legacy whereby your lifestyle is a memory that people will be talking about when you are gone. Living a life of impact is really important because this is the age you are supposed to be giving back, to society. You have enjoyed so much grace from this society. So this is when you should intentionally be giving back. And it doesn't have to be paid for, whether you're coaching, whether you're mentoring, or just ensuring that, in your immediate space, you are trying to, affect people's mindsets and all that. Because, the next generation would take solace in remembering this quality of life that you live, the impact you made on them, and all that. And for many of us, please, I advise, I'm 65. I don't know. I think the demographics here, there are a few people that are in my age group, and there are some that are between 50 and 60. I saw that. One thing I want to tell you is invest in relationships, because you're going to find that this is what is going to make the difference when you are much older and you're out of, the marketplace, so to speak. It's really important. Cultivate relationships that fuel your passion and keep you learning. And for that, I will advise that you have a hub of younger people in your space all the time. I do, because there's a lot of reverse mentoring happening in my life constantly. I'm learning a lot from younger people. So be intentional about this, because as you get older, you just find that a lot of things, become a dinosaur if you're not careful. Finally, please face your fears, write your will, or set up a trust. I mean, I can't even say this enough, because all this that we have talked about, God forbid, in the event that something happens, it's not my portion, but death is the portion of each and every one of us. We just don't know when the appointed time is for each of us. So please prepare. So whatever fears you have, I mean, I'm not trying to be morbid by saying you will die, no, but you need to write a will. Because when you are gone, the mindset here is like, you need to be sure that those you are leaving behind do not go through any pain or stress, or they're not able to access what you have worked so hard, to achieve all your life. Thank you very much.
Thank
Did I
you.
make my time, Bimbo?
No, I couldn't stop you. I didn't stop you deliberately. Thank you so much. Because I know we need to hear it, all the things you were saying, and it's a bit difficult. I know it's tight for you, telling you to put what you probably coach over 3 months, or even longer than the time of giving to you, or longer than that, when you're coaching personally. Thank you very much. The questions already in the chat box. I want to ask people to please post the questions to the Q&A box, because it's easier for us to pick the questions from there. So, Madam, I'll let you take a cup of water, and I would come back to you
Okay.
when we look at the questions that are being posted and the ones we have from registration from earlier on. Thank you so much. Please stop sharing your screen now. Okay, thank you very much. I think I should stop also. Yeah, carry on the spotlight. Kari, I'm going to spotlight you now. Yes, I've spotlighted you for everybody. I'm going to introduce you and then let you share your screen. Okay. Yes, this program this evening is brought to you courtesy of the alumni of SMP, Lagos Business School SMP 35. That's the Senior Management Program Number 35, I think they're about 61 now, wherever they are now, but this is a group of friends that had a 3-month program in 2009. Now, Kayode is our next speaker, but he is also one of us. He's an alumni of the program that we had in 2009. Kayode is the MD of Prosperous Holdings Company Limited. He's an ardent finance professional with over 19 years experience. And please pardon me, he's a very busy executive, so I had to pick this from the internet. Some of the things are probably outdated, probably is no more 19 years experience, spanning portfolio, investment management, corporate finance, corporate banking, investor relations, strategy and structuring of capital markets, and mergers and acquisition deals. Kayode has a master's degree in business admin from University of Lagos and a BSc degree in chemical engineering from Obafemi Awolowo University. Kayode has undertaken the Honors President's Management Program, OPM 55 of the Harvard Business School. Like I said, he's also an alumnus of Lagos Business School. He attended the SMP35 and he's also taking the Chief Executive Program, and he was part of the CEP 25 class. Kayode, thank you so much. I know you are SMP35, but I also know that you are very busy, so thank you for doing this with us. We have over 85 people now, maybe discount the 7 organizers or panelists, so it's a lot of people that you're going to be impacting with your presentation. You have 20 minutes. I don't know the miracle you're going to do. There's so many questions for you, from the money angle, the investment angle, already waiting. We'd like to hear as much as you want to share with us this evening. We also want you to take the questions later. Thank you so much, Kayode. I'll stop sharing now and you can share.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether my screen is being seen right now.
Yes, we can see, but give us the full screen presentation mode.
Oh, okay. Is it in the presentation mode now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much, Bimbo. Thank you, Mrs. Orongbe, for taking the first portion of the presentation. I will run through my slides as fast as possible. I would share a personal experience before I do that, and I would try to speak to the questions that people have. I can't see those questions now, but please, I'll try to be as fast as possible so that we can get there. Mrs. Orongbe has done a lot of work. I've known her, very long time ago. I believe, first of all, at Intercellular, fantastic woman. She took me to the first pension fund administrator that I worked with, and I think I was with them for over 15 years, probably close to 20 years. So thank you very much. I finally moved on. Okay, the personal story I want to share is I sat, to check my life about 8, 9, 10 years ago. About 2003, I put together when I wanted to retire. Interestingly, that year was 2023, this year that we are now. I wanted to retire, and retirement to me meant that I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. I didn't want to be called to do anything that I didn't want to do, right? So about 10 years, so 10 years after I wrote that plan, I checked that, would I be able to get to the point that I wanted to be? And I had a long list of the things that I wanted to do when I retired. And I found that I discovered that the trajectory that I was, and the people who knew me 10 years ago, the trajectory was not bad at all. It was really, really good, right? But even at that good trajectory, it could not get me to the place I wanted to go. So I decided to, at some point about 7 years ago, leave paid employment and started with a couple of people, Prosperous Holdings. the thing that I want to highlight here is this. When I took that decision, I'd been told, I mean, I was lucky to be, I don't think I say mentored, role modeled by somebody that I met perchance at the airport a couple of times, and he told me that this thing you want to do, you want to leave your job and start a business. When you do it, your journey is going to get extremely lonely, but don't worry, keep going on. Exactly what happened. When I left my job, all the calls went dry. Nobody was calling me again. And I mean, I was well prepared for it. Now, those calls started growing, coming back and becoming very strong when people felt that, oh, okay, this guy has not shipwrecked himself, right? So that might happen. And I mean, if it's already happening to people, we can speak to it. So to my presentation, planning ahead of and managing life after retirement. The definition of retirement, whether you did it yourself, whether you were forced into it, I mean, we'll talk about it. But Ms. Orongwe already spoke a lot about retirement, so I will move away from that. But this couple of slides are interesting. When you imagine your retirement, and it's different, it's something people on the call, we all imagine different things, and that's why you must take time out to write it out. You must be very, very deliberate, and you must plan it. It cannot be in your head. You must write it out, and you must check periodically whether you are moving towards that, you are optimizing towards that direction. Is it travel you want? Are you optimizing for grandkids and being happy around them? Do you want to do your hobbies? Do you want to sleep late because you are not running to work in the morning? Do you want to volunteer, something religious, something maybe not religious, but something that can change the world? You want to have a lot of rest. You just have to want to have more time. You think that, you know, the things that you are doing currently is not those things that you want to spend your time on. Whatever it is, you need to document it and start optimizing towards it. I would skip what retirement is. I mean, we all know here is about 65 years in Nigeria, 60, 65. For people who have been following the news, there have been some issues in France because they wanted to move retirement age from 62 to 64. And it's been a lot of fight, I think, in a couple of weeks. Right, by 2 years. So here, if you are working for government, if you are working at a firm, you would probably go home by 65. I think for professors, it's more than that. And there's voluntary retirement, you live by yourself. There's forced or compulsory retirement. And there's mandatory retirement when you get to the age. But one thing, we were speaking just before this call, retirement will come on all of us, whether you are 25, 20, 30, 65, it will come on you. Whether you like it, whether you are deliberate about working towards it, it will come, right? It's one of those things that come, like taxes, and some people say, and death, it will come, retirement will come. Why should you plan? Mrs. Orongwe has spoken a lot about it. I will run through it. There's no better time than now. You might think it's too early. Now let me speak to being early. When you are early in your planning, that is, you're in your early 30s, you have 30 years to plan for it. I did some pretty interesting things, maybe not so interesting. If you go on your internet, all those things are there now. You can get yourself a compound calculator, and it's interesting. If you save 10,000 Naira monthly, right, and you could get a return of 5% on it for 30 years, you have 8.3 million at the end of 30 years compounded. If you do it for 100,000, you have 83.22 million and in 30 years, 100,000. And at the beginning, when you are 30, maybe you can save 100,000, right? But as you grow and you advance in your career, you find out that you won't die if you set some certain money deliberately, aside to plan towards. Plus the one that is taken by the pension fund from your salary, you can add something to it, or you can, have a retirement fund with a trustee, with an asset management firm of repute, and you plan towards it. You keep contributing. With insurance companies, I think they have, things like that. Imagine you're able to save $1 million, and there are some people who are able to save $1 million monthly, right? Because if you document what you spend your money on, it will interest you that you really don't need to spend on the things that you impulsively, spend on. Mr. Rumbe has spoken about things like HIB and things. I will give you a personal experience. When I was going to leave, I looked at what I really need. The money I needed to send my kids to school, the money that I needed to move around, right? And, live in a home. I found out that it was about 20%, less than 20% of my annual salary. And I asked myself, okay, so I could really live on 20%, right? And he encouraged me. Luckily, before then, I'd been able to just invest alongside when people are investing. When I see people who are passionate about something and they want to drive it and they are committing their time to it, you could do that. But compound interest is your friend. At that point, if you're young, but it's never too late. Even if you are in your 50s, right? You can start, you can start doing certain things. But let me say something quickly. People panic, especially when they are over 50. They just panic, and panic is your enemy, right? It can get you to start making, mistakes, which you don't want to. And if you are to do an investment, never rush. The investment will be there tomorrow, next tomorrow. Ask yourself repeatedly and get quality advice. Just don't meet somebody and they say, if it's sounding too good to be true, Mr. Rumbe has said it is not true. Just calm down, ask for advice from as many people, especially the older that the older you get, the more advice that you need. So I move it along. Why should you begin planning, right? Planning for retirement early ensures that you're able to fully enjoy retirement. A great way to take advantage of compound interest that I spoke about, and achieving your retirement goal in advance, right? Means that you have more time to do those things that you want to do. How do you plan? As I said, you need to outline your needs. You have to be deliberate about it, document it, estimate how much you need, right? And it will surprise you what you can achieve if you plan ahead. If you want to go on a nice sail on your 60th birthday or your 70th birthday, if you have 10 years, 15 years to plan, 5 years to plan, the better. You can't just start planning 1 month to it and you start selling off assets. Make a feasible plan to cover the retirement needs, right? You now have a concrete idea of how much you need monthly during retirement. You must know that. And the best way to estimate is that how much are you pumping out right now, pre-retirement? Estimate it and, get yourself investment that will pay you those salaries, money coming in regularly that you need. You need to open a pension account. You have been told that. Make plans for where you want to live. Mr. Rumbe has said that. Live within your budget. She said that. Invest in real estate, stock, and bonds. And when we're preparing for this presentation, somebody asked a question ahead of the presentation, ahead of today, that how do you fight inflation, right? How do you fight inflation? If you save probably in Naira, you suffer devaluation, you suffer inflation, right? Investing in commodities, investing in real estate might help you edge against those things, right? And there are financial instruments, not so much in Nigeria, but in advanced countries that are indexed against the inflation. So it's protected against inflation. It will return in excess of inflation, but again, inflation in those places are usually a single digit, and you can get something that can protect you against it. If the question is asked again, I can drill into it and answer in a specific way. You need to maintain a healthy relationship with your family, right? It is key. The people who are older amongst us know how important it is. Those are the people you are going to be left with. So if you are not friends with them now and taking deliberate time, not just using all your time, work, work, work. You have to spend time. It's part of your retirement plan. Get to know your kid, speak. I had a colleague in a bank that I worked in the past. He woke up, he was already an executive director then. And he woke up on a Saturday in his own house, and he saw his children moving around, and they were saying things. And he found out that he was not a member of that family, right? He quickly retired. He spent about 2-3 years to catch up with his kid. Maybe he had a lot of money to take that kind of decision. But on a daily basis, we have to create time to do that, right? And relationships also that matter. I mean, we need to check around us, the people that are consuming our time, what are they really contributing to us? And we must, move things around if, the things you're optimizing for, your current cycle does not help you optimize for it. Avoid debt. Don't go and be borrowing. You understand? You don't need to borrow, to live well. Live within your means. Don't borrow, because the more you are in debt, the more under pressure you get. Maintain healthy food, right? Managing life after retirement, right? Managing life after retirement involves planning for unpredictable and unavoidable new lifestyle when one withdraws from active service. Mrs. Orangbe has spoken so much about it. You wake up, and what next do? Do you understand? You need a plan, adopt, implement strategies, and the advisors that can help you. If you are clueless about things to do, right? You can visit, consulting companies like Bloomberg. You can speak to your trustees. There should be a desk with your pension managers. If you have, a person, speak with them. There are people who can help you look at your plan, help you, adjust things, and you can start moving towards that direction, right? After you retire, you will still need to be active, right? And that's where your relationships come to play. A part-time work will be good. Starting up a business is good, but don't go and put your entire retirement money on it, right? And be wise on what you invest in. That's the time that, it's better to keep your money and let it return. They call it passive investment. Now, when you are in your 30s, maybe, early 40s, you can, take riskier investment. But late 40s, early 50s, you need to, calm down and make sensible investment decisions, right? In your retirement, you have excess fund, please continue investing. You can move those monies into generational wealth, and, succession planning is what Ms. Orangbe, spoke about to tackle that point, right? Your hobbies, you should cultivate hobbies, develop areas of interest, which can assist, you in the social life. Healthy well-being, healthy lifestyle and well-being is important. Start exercising now, right? Because those things that if you don't live healthy now, right, you will spend a lot of money on your health in the future, which should not be the places that you should be spending your money. You should be spending it on investment and enjoying, your retirement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kayode.
Yes,
you didn't disappoint us. I'm sure that some of our classmates that are around the call would certainly know that you have delivered exactly what we expected. We used to call him Fada. Well, he had many nicknames. So Kayode, thank you very much. You can take a cup of water. We'll come back to you during the question and answer session. The comments are very positive already. People appreciate the presentations from you and Madam Inyang. We're going to take, yes, you've stopped sharing? Okay, we're going to take a story now, an experience from one of our classmates. Also, just 1 minute, please. Let me take Kayode off the spotlight. Okay, yes. So one of us is going to share her experience quickly. She actually started the conversation, the retirement conversation, in the WhatsApp group. So this whole the program we're having this evening, we really need to acknowledge Mercy for being on it, like we say when we're in class. When somebody is on a point for a very long time, they say Messi is on it. And then in those days, and it's such a coincidence that both of them are talking this evening, because Father used to also be on it for a very long time. So we had those that used to make so many points in class. And thank you very much, Messi. You have, like I said to you earlier on, we have limited time. There's a lot to talk about. There's so many questions, the experience from different people around the call, but we want to make use of the 90 minutes that we had promised to use very well. A quick introduction. Messi has a BSc degree in chemical engineering from University of Lagos. She has master's level certificate in international operations management from University of London. Messi is a certified and licensed Smedan business development service provider, and she's a 6 Sigma Green Belt holder. You see, all the guests that I have this evening, their profiles are so, I won't use the word intimidating, but so blessed. So I had to paraphrase, and I'm still struggling with the abridged version. Messi has a passion to mentor business owners, and she will be sharing her personal experience with planning and coping in retirement. She will also share some experience, stories from people that haven't done so well with retirement planning. Messi is on it. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Bimbo. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'll just spotlight you now for everyone. Yeah, great.
Very much, everyone. And I also thank you, Bimbo, for taking this up, to a higher level, even though we discussed it on the platform some time ago on the SMP platform, but it's kudos to you and Dapo for taking it beyond the platform to what we have today. I'm glad to be here, and I'm also glad to share this story. It's a passion that I've been driving into the ears of many people that care to listen, so that they don't fall into the prey of need and gap, financial gap when they're retired. Okay, my experience span from the fact that I clocked 50 last year, and when I was 40, I observed, I even shared the observation with my husband, that I noticed that from age 52 to 60, I saw some people that they were really in their need of fundings, financing. They were always having one issue or the other. So I shared that concern with my husband. And of course, he told me that I shouldn't worry, that God will take care of our own needs when we get to that age. But I didn't relent. I started thinking, and then I left my job, partly because I was actually tired of 9-to-5 job at the time. And the fact that I'd risen to a certain level in my career, and I felt, what next? And of course, the retirement plan that I had in mind by this observation, that I don't want to be 50, 52, and I look like this, or I have all these kind of needs. So coincidentally and luckily for us, by the grace of God, we already have our own shelter where we are living at the moment. Then I started thinking, what can I do before I clock age 50, so that I can prepare so well for what is ahead? So I took up I would say some programs to develop myself. I did a lot of certifications to present myself to another industry where I can be relevant. I went into consulting, consulted for development organizations like USAID and the rest of them. And at the time, when I was doing all this, I also thought about the tuition fees for the kids, that if you want to leave this work and face business, go on early retirement, to fund the school tuition fees for the kids would be too much for my partner, my husband. So I was like, something has to be coming in regularly. But since it was a 10-year plan, there was no problem. I started working on myself. I started putting things together. By the time I was age 45, I got a consultancy job. And with that consultancy job, it was able to prepare me so well financially that we're able to set out all the tuition fees from year 1 to year 4, the final year of the kids. We set it aside. And what we even did was we even went further and placed it in foreign currency, so that at the time we would need the money, we'd just be changing what we needed per time, not putting it in Naira. And at that time, we didn't even know the FX was going to go crazy like this, getting to 700 350 today. We just said, let's just keep it there. So when we need it, we just change it to whatever we need to pay the tuition fee. That was one. Then secondly, we also felt that we needed income that will be coming in, besides the fact that we have saved money for the tuition fee. So the monies that I was making, the agreement was that we had some landed properties, so we started developing them. We're developing them for rental income, so that by the time I clocked that age, the rental income will be coming in. And by the grace of God, we're able to finish like close to about 3 to 4 apartments that we are getting rental income. And this was completed year 2021. At least we received the first income at that time. And then I was 49. Remember, I had a plan. I was 49. Then last year, by the grace of God, everybody in my office knew I was going to clock 50. I made so much noise about this 50 because it was something that I've dreamt about. So the first thing I did was immediately I clocked 50. I finished the mini. I wasn't going to do any big celebration. I told everybody I'm not doing any celebration. I just marked it in my office, did cake and bought drinks for people. Because of the money that I would have used to do my 50th birthday, it's part of my plan to put some things in place. So I clocked 50 immediately 2 weeks after, because the Pension Act now allows you to access your fund at the age of 50. You don't have to wait till 60. And because I had this plan in mind, so I quickly went to my pension administrator, applied for my pension. They gave me the lump sum, and since last year, I've been on monthly pension payments, which is more than enough to take care of my monthly bills, whether health, wellness, you want to buy gas finished, or whatever it is I could do with the money. So I've been accessing that fund since. But the beauty part of this is the fact that when I got there and I saw other pension holders that came to the pension administrator, I realized that people's money that have been taken from the employer have been taken from them was not remitted to the pension administrator. So a lot of them came when they were 60, when they were 61 to come and access their pension. And frustratingly, they were there. I saw them in the banking hall, in the whatever hall, customer care hall of that pension administrator. And some of them were miserable. They were even asking questions. You mean my employer did not put any money? Say, ma'am, I'm sorry, they did not put any money. In fact, some of them stopped maybe the second year after spending like maybe 15 years in the organization. So that got me thinking that you mean some people will actually deduct from you and not remit to the PFA. So immediately I left that place. Mine was intact because I was always checking it. You know, when you have a plan, you're always checking and monitoring it. So I was tracking it. I get my monthly email alerts from Stanbic IBTC pensions. So I know how much my money was growing into. And so I shared that information with the people in my other platform, and I told them, look, you guys, if you know your employer is taking money from you, please, it's early, it's good now for you to go there and get it sorted out. And of course, the ones that could go, I don't know if they are gone. So basically, the retiring early has prepared me. For example, last year when I decided that I wanted to leave my workforce, it's a 5-year contract, which you said, and I had done 3 years, and I said I was leaving. Everybody was thinking, what's wrong with this woman? Is it because you are so skilled, you have all these certifications, you have your profile is so strong, so you can just pick one and drop one? I said, look, I already told myself that this 5-year contract I have, I will do 3 years, I will rest, pursue my dreams, community development, because I'm good at career talks to students in secondary school, primary school. I've been doing that for over a decade now. It's part of my passion. So I wanted to do things that is within my timeline. I wanted to do things that I'm passionate about. I wanted to do things that is impactful, kingdom things, community development, touching lives. And I knew that being in the workforce would not give me that privilege or availability to do that. So hence reason why I decided that I want to retire at 50. So I have a 50 to 60 years, another 10-year plan to do a lot of things. Like I share with my husband, I want to go for conferences. Christian conferences in the US, the UK, my Joyce Meyer, you know, I can go to UK to listen to any conference at KICC. I just want to do things, but I need funding to do that. So these were the things that I had that I put in place as part of what I want to do in my retirement to impact on myself and the people around me. The tuition fee is taken care of, shelter is taken care of, I have rental incomes coming in. And today, people call me for jobs. And sometimes when I can't do it, I just give it out to somebody else. And I will tell you, this job I'm giving you, you give me 10%. And it's okay. So I'll just connect you. You do the job. I vet that it's okay. There's no trouble. You pay me my 10% of the relationship management that I did. And everybody's happy. So for going forward now is another, and I have another 10-year plan from 50 to 60, all the things that I want to do. So going into retirement is not retiring from active service, but retiring into something, just like our earlier speakers have said. And I've been a practitioner of this, and it has helped me. I like right now, the 10-year plan is, yes.
Sorry, I have a question for you, and I have questions for other speakers as well. Like I said to Madam Yang, it's a conversation it's not a conversation that we can so comfortably fit into the 90 minutes. Thank you for sharing your experience, Mercy. What I keep hearing, or what I kept hearing, was proactive planning, you know, and Kayode spoke so well about that, sharing his own experience. I see, I've also learned something from what you've just, you know, I said, because you phased your planning into, you didn't just say retirement period, you know, you broke it into blocks as well. So thank you for sharing your experience, Mercy. You talked about personal development. Quitting paid employment, it doesn't mean you should stop personal development. You went ahead to develop yourself, to make yourself even more marketable in your desired areas post-paid employment. One thing you also did, which Kayode also did very well, is that you identified an exit date. Okay, you identified an exit date and said, this is the time that you want to stop working, or this is the time that you want to, you know, transition into another employment or business. So you had a 10-year plan, and you spoke so well about passive income, rental income. Thank you so much, Mercy. The only question I have for you from, you know, questions submitted, so that I can just finish with you and then maybe come back to you if I have other questions, is if you were speaking to someone, you know, because you've shared so many stories on the platform of people who are in sad places. I say sad places because they didn't plan well. Okay, so they're in sad places, and you wish they could know the things that we're sharing here. You wish they knew these things earlier. So if someone who didn't listen to Mrs. Inyang's, Madam Inyang and Kayode's presentation comes to you and says, what are 3 essential things that I need to consider before I can say I'm ready for retirement? Your time starts now, 1 minute. 3 essential things.
Ensure your family does not suffer for your early retirement that you're going into. Very, very critical.
Okay.
Ensure you have shelter in place that is not mortgaged, that you are still paying mortgage on, that you are probably fully built.
Okay.
You may still have something that you are still doing on it, or at least you have moved in.
Put residential building on the front burner. Okay. Number 3.
Residential, your shelter accommodation is very important. It's critical for everybody's well-being. Okay. Then ensure that the fees of the children too are taken good care of. Education. Whatever should be, yes, whatever should be left should be operational things for the house. You want to buy food, you want to buy this, you know, want to pay the gas, you want to buy fuel. Those are the things that should be left. But the
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Mercy. And I'm not being rude. I'm not, you know, I'm not speaking into your mind. I just need to manage time very well. And I'm getting some pressures from comments online. Thank you so much, Mercy. 1, for being the initiator of this conversation on our platform. And like we always praise you for being on it, because when Mercy starts on the matter, she knows they let her rest. Thank you very much, because we have 92 participants. We had over 315 people who registered, and as many people that registered as possible would have, access to this conversation. So you're not only impacting the SMP35 family, by this initiative, you've shared good news with so many families. Thank you very much, Mercy. Thank you so much. Yes, at this point, I want to recognize the presence of Mr. Henry Ando. I think I'm pronouncing the name well. Thank you for joining us, sir. He is the director of the Lagos Business School Alumni Associations. Thank you, and thank you, sir, for correcting us that SMP35, which we did in 2009, is now at SMP 95, I think you said, 85. Says 985. And thank you so much, Didi Otobo from Port Harcourt. Thank you for joining us. You joined so early, and thank you for sharing in the comment section. You're recommending that we should encourage our mentees and our children and the younger ones to read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. You said you read it about 10 times before you became a youth corper. Yes, so that brings us to financial fitness that we keep talking about. One of the reasons we're having this conversation is because we want people to make sacrifices now to attain financial fitness early. So when I started sharing my slides earlier on, I said the goal and the objective of this conversation is for us all to have financial fitness, to have financial freedom, and be financially fit now as well as in retirement. If you have followed the advertisement for this program online, I have always tried to put the word retire into dignity. If you listen to Mercy's experience, you see that, retiring, living paid employment did not take her into a beggarly position. Madam Yang said earlier on that Omugo, those of us that have been waiting for our children to marry rich husbands so that we can go and take care of their children. That's no retirement plan. Now we're going to go to the questions. Thank you so much, Bright. Bright is one of the members of the SMP35 alumni, and he's been very supportive of this program behind the scenes, and I think he has some comments for us in the chat box. Madam Yang, thank you so much. I know you've had some water. Kayode, I'm coming to you both now with the questions. I don't know if it's in the setup, but the questions are not in the Q&A box, so it's kind of all muddled up in the chat box. Okay, let me take my next question to Madam Yang. Okay, Madam, I know you did a presentation and the comments already in the chat box. Everyone is hailing you, and it's not a disappointment. And for those of you not following her, please follow her online. Madam, please help us with the two accounts. I know one is the Bloombox platform, and then the other one is I am Sammy.
It's I Samuel Orungbe.
Okay.
Both on Instagram.
Can you type it for us in the chat box, please?
Yes, I can.
And then I will see if I can get someone to put the link to follow you directly. I don't think Kayode has time for us online. He's busy chasing dollars and all for all the powerful currencies. So I don't think he's. Or do you have an Instagram page, Kayode, for us to follow you online?
I know.
Yeah, I know. So the question I have for you, Madam, amongst so many other questions, so many questions that we got this evening is, I want you to speak to late planners. Like someone says, what would be your advice? I'm over 50. I do not have a retirement savings account. I do not have any pension plan. What should such a person do?
Again, what picture have you painted for your retirement for yourself, right? What are the gaps? How can we fix those gaps? And if the gaps are financial, then it's obvious that once you retire, because I'm guessing this is a mandatory retirement that you're taking at 50. I mean, you still have a lot of energy left. So perhaps this is the time to go into entrepreneurship. But if that is not your thing, you can take up some other employment somewhere.
I'm sorry to cut into your response. The question is, I am over 50, so it's not as if the person is going into retirement,
okay.
but the person does not have a retirement saving. There's no plan, you know. There's no plan, there's no pension scheme in place, there's nothing, but still has still working.
Okay, you're still working, so you can start something from what you're doing. But have in mind that whatever it is you start now is not likely to take you into retirement. So you have to very quickly identify what it is you can do to augment your retirement funds. So this is now having to set up something that you can get some income from. I worry that you may not be able to get to where you would have wanted to, but the fact that you are doing this conscientiously is likely to still deliver some returns to you. So is it investing? Is it starting or a business? Is it trading? Whatever it is you have passion for and you can do outside of your work. I mean, if you have a passion, for example, for baking, I mean, this is just as a random example, then perhaps you need to pursue this very vigorously and see how much of that you can do to bring in income. The idea is to be very intentional about this, having identified the gaps that you have. And I don't think that it is too late.
Thank you very much. So the word is, it's never too late. I think either you or Coyote also said it. I think Coyote in his presentation, is never too late. And that's why I said at the beginning of the conversation that irrespective of the season of life that we are in, I mean, the people around the call, whether you're below 30, you just started a job, or you are pre-retirement season, or semi-retired or retired, there's something in it for you. We don't have so much time, because if I said to Mrs. Sami Orungbe to speak to retired people, I know that what she would emphasize will be different from the things that we've been emphasizing here today. So we've spoken across board today, and the conclusion of your response to that gentleman is that it's not too late to start preparing for retirement. No. Yeah. No. Thank you very much. Kylie, I'm sure you'll be waiting for this question. The one that is coming to you now. I don't know, you tried to speak to it a little bit in your presentation, and I can see some people already asking you questions in the chat box to please tell them investment opportunities and options that will help them beat inflation. Now, the question to you is that I've had people, you get all sorts of questions from followers, and when you do these programs over and over again, you hear all sorts of questions. So some people are so very reluctant to start a savings plan, or even to begin to invest. They think that because of inflation, they just, so the question is, what should people do? People who are reluctant to invest or save towards their future because of inflation, should they go to bed? Don't tell me the answer is in the question.
No. Thank you very much. I will quickly answer it, and I would attempt to speak to the question you asked Mrs. Orungwe as well, just very briefly. So to inflation, we live in a wonderful country. I mean, a lot of people don't agree, but Nigeria is one of the most amazing places to live in the world, right? For inflation, all right, I'll give you a very straightforward. I have an industry colleague, and when he knew, because I mean, in our industry, you can forecast when there's going to be devaluation, right? It's a straightforward thing. I mean, in our industry, if the balance of trade for people who follow those things of Nigeria has been, below negative $5 billion. Once it gets there, the valuation is 60 to 90 days time. No matter what anybody says, it's coming. Don't worry. So we watch these things, and for investment, and I felt it was remarkable because we're investment bankers historically. This gentleman drove to Alaba market, right? Enters into shops, and he bought all shops of electronics. He said, I buy what is everything inside this shop, right? They give him the price. He said, it pays. He bought so much, and he said, lock it, give me the key, and he walks away. Then the valuation happens, less than 60 days time. Everybody, the places he did not buy, people had restocked. Do you understand? And they were selling new price. So he opened the shops and told the guys, this is my property, sell. By that time, it was doing in 60 days, it was doing like almost 40, 50, 60% on some items, because that was the direction of the devaluation. So it's remarkable. Properties, if you live in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, even Ibadan, Abeokuta, properties in the last 4 years have moved significantly up, right? And if you must keep your money in cash, I mean, what I tell people, if you are going to have foreign currency, and Mercy mentioned it, if you are going to have foreign currency related obligation, right? Keep your money in foreign currency, right? But guess what? When people say, oh, if you are going to have foreign currency obligation, right, is to maybe you are sending a kid to school abroad or you're something. Everybody on this call, if you live in Nigeria, you have foreign currency obligation. And let me tell you, your cement is linked to foreign currency. The pasta you are eating is linked to foreign currency. The bread that you are eating, because the import flour is linked to foreign currency. The petrol you are buying in your car is linked to foreign currency. Anything happens to devaluation of the Naira, it affects you. So if you have excess cash, right, there was a client that came to us and the lady told me, said, I'm managing this fund for my client. This is about 3 years ago. And she says, what should I do? 2 ladies, actually. One owns an oil and gas firm. Then I believe the interest rates on Naira was around 12, 13%. On dollar was 2%. I told both of them, go to dollar, let's invest at 2%. But one decided I will invest 13% on Naira. One say I will invest 2% on the dollar. 1 year after, 37% devaluation happened. The other guy did 37 plus 2. This other one did 16% or 12% plus effect of devaluation on the currencies. So, I mean, that's the way I answer it. To the 50-year-old person that is still working, right? It's not too late. Please, you have to be deliberate. I mean, Ms. Onogbe has answered the question, but let me just beg you, right? Look at your time. It is time we exchange for money, right? You don't have the luxury to spend your time on things that does not bring money to you. He said, if you know how to bake, bake. Do you understand? If you know how to consult in your spare time. You have a lot of spare time. This is not the time you use your spare time for premiership, to gist with the girls night out, boys vacation. You don't have that luxury. This is the time you look at everything that you're doing. You take your time log and now start pointing a lot of those ones that you are using to launch to money making. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kayode. I think I should go to Madam Yang now. I know that government employees, they are more likely to have pension schemes because it's they have to follow the acts, the Pension Reform Act, and all of that. There's so many questions I want to ask, but maybe I'll just let you answer this one and I'll go to the next one. Do government employees have an advantage over people in the private sector when it comes to retiring comfortably or retirement planning? Do you think they have an advantage?
I really don't see any. Why? Because even the private companies are supposed to be under the pension scheme. Any responsible organization should have put their employees under the pension scheme. For government people, what we have found is that for some of them, they had a gratuity scheme running, especially for the agencies, not the main ministries now. For some of the agencies, they had a gratuity scheme running. So when that was now collapsed into the pension scheme, so it put them at a better, stead than some of their contemporaries. But even at that, we also know that, government workers are not so well paid. Some of them have found that even just using the PFA's pension calculator to check out what is coming to them in retirement, many of them are really shocked that they won't be in a good place at all. And which is where the idea of ensuring that you find something to do to augment your retirement funds comes in. Because the sooner you know that, the better. So you start wrapping your mind around the fact that you have to find something else to do, to augment that. For private companies, some of them too, the bigger organizations, the big FMCGs, multinationals, they had a pension scheme in place. And many of the oil and gas companies also did. So for many of them, they've retired into a very good place. So usually the issue they have is not financial, it's actually what to do with their time. That is what the difference I have seen in both sectors. So for public sector people, I really advise that, don't wait till then. You can try to find out what is coming to you based on the level of, your level. I mean, whether your grade level, based on that, because when we have seminars and workshops, we would usually have people just randomly check, and people are actually shocked, to find that some of them maybe 60,000 a month, some as bad as 7,000 a month. And really, what can you hope to do with that? So you have to immediately now see what you can, kick off to ensure that you augment that.
Thank you very much. I hear you loud and clear. And you also, mentioned it earlier on in your presentation, not just the financial bit. We have to be emotionally ready for retirement. We have to be psychologically ready. I've been debating if I should share this because the person is around the call, and it's one of my siblings. When my father was asked to retire, she wept bitterly. She cried. And she was crying because, not because she was, she wouldn't have what to eat, but she just could not understand life when, because my dad at that time was a police commissioner, and then, the cars with all the flags and everything. I think she just was not ready for not having, the paparazzi and the paraphernalia of that office. Allow me to, So I've been saying, should I talk about it? I'm sorry, Dr. T, I'm so sorry, but I just had to spice this conversation up with that. Some people are not ready for that. And so the emotional part, which is what, if you were doing this for 1 week with us, you will take us, module by module and get us prepared. And then when we started this conversation, Mercy, remember we said we would extend to our spouses, because the SMP35 WhatsApp group is just of the members. And we said, let's have this conversation and have our spouses join in so that people are ready and all of that. And then we said, okay, we'll extend it to friends, many more people. So thank you for that response. Kayode, quickly, I think we should answer Rita Chuku's question. She says, what's the best investment to go into if you just have 2 years to retirement? And you see, the question, speaks for many other questions, if you know what I mean. So she says 2 more years to retirement, what's the best investment to go into? Is it the time to take, start investing in crypto so she can quickly make money or not?
Well, the answer to that question depends on what she wants to do at retirement, right? But what is not the answer to that question is to do any, astronomical increase type of investment, like crypto, like, anything you don't understand, right? Anything that is giving abnormal returns when you have 2 years to go, please run. Immediately say it. I mean, I have this habit. If you start saying the thing, I stop hearing you. You just be talking, but my brain is not recording anything, right? So it's not the time, right? Because if you have 2 years to go, I don't know, 2 years to 60, 2 years to 65, 2 years to, you still have time. My elder brother was the managing director of one of the listed companies in Nigeria. And and to some people here, once you get into the management line, in a bank, you're executive director, you are anything. Now, from the day your appointment is a board appointment, it will end. So your retirement is not at the end. Once you enter that pipe, we had a friend then in one of the banks. They tried to promote him to executive director, and he always refused. He said, my kids are in primary school. Don't put me on this line, because once you put me on the line, I'm going out, right? And he kept dodging it until one day they just appointed him. Right. So if you have 2 years to go, my brother had to go because he joined early. In fact, he had to retire at 50. And luckily, the company he worked for is an American company. They had this huge gratuity for him. And when he asked me, He told me, what shall I do? I said, you are just 50. It's you know, a couple of years ago. I said, you are just 50. He's, I think, 63 now. You are just 50. What you should do is do as if you were never given that money and invest it in probably a bond, a 7-year bond or something, right? Then go and work. You are still young, right? And the rest is history. Completely forget it. I call it the theory of new zero. You don't have it. So what should you invest in? Things that are secured, right? At least you have the money. I tell my friends, return of money, OF, is better than return on money. Still, your money is in your hand, is 100%. Don't go and give it to somebody and it becomes 35 in the name that they promised you 300%. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kayode. Madam Iyag, I'm going to come back to you. It's a question that I want you to talk to something, that Mercy mentioned, in conversation earlier on and then briefly in her story. So if my organization is contributing to a pension scheme or RSA on my behalf, is that sufficient? Is that a sufficient plan? Should I just sit and be happy that they're taking my contribution from my payslip at the end of every month and they're adding theirs? Or what else should I be doing to safeguard my contribution? Mercy had said that when she visited, one RSA at a point, she saw people who thought that a deduction had been made from there. So, madam, what should we do? What should people around the call do? In addition, once how can they secure the contributions? What should they do? Few things they need to take care of.
One, the PFA send them quarterly online statements. So make sure that you are checking your statements to see that your contributions are dropping. I'm totally, I agree with Mercy because a lot of, employers did that. And of course, you have a right to then report to PENCOM, and PENCOM will take action against, the employer. But all that does not put you in a good stead because, either way, the money is not in your account. Some people have left the employment before they discovered that the employer was not, contributing. And, it's quite a tedious process reporting to PENCOM and trying to retrieve the funds from them. So do yourself a favor and make sure, just the same way, when you get your bank statements, check to see the validity of the transactions on it. Do the same with your pension account. Don't even be casual about it because this is all you have. For many people, they don't have more than this. And for some too, even if your employer is paying, and everything is going hunky-dory, if you can afford to still squeeze a little more, then you should open an ADC, an additional voluntary contribution account, to augment whatever is in your RSA. So that is what I have to say, but please pay attention to your statements, when you get them, to be sure that your funds are dropping into your RSA.
Thank you very much. For the attendees who are asking, questions that I know we cannot answer quickly in this program, please send an email to financecoachtoday@gmail.com or the email listed in your registration notification that you got. We'll try and answer as many as we can, but there's some. For example, there's a lady who is talking about her situation, and I think she needs proper coaching. I don't think it's something that we can take on in this call. But there's a very long question, and I'm not so sure if this is from Bright of SMP35, but it's for Kayode. Kayode, have you taken a cup of water?
Yes. I was happy.
So Bright says, what other way can an entrepreneur who operates on self-financing save for retirement, considering that each time cash is set aside and kept in the bank, there's this strong feeling that this money is idle, it's an idle fund and should be rolled back into the business for growth and expansion. Is it clear? Should I read it again?
It's crystal.
Okay.
It's crystal clear. Thank you. Before I answer Bright's question, Mr. Orungbe said something. I just want to add just something little to it. Please, if you can afford to add to your pension contribution higher than the one that I think they deduct 8% from you and your employer adds 10% to contribute 18%. But the addition that you make right, is reducing the payee that you pay to government. So if you don't pay it, you lose about 20% of it anyway. But you are, I mean, the calculation, you can ask the advisor of your pension manager. Let me go to the question. Oh, so Bright, thank you very much for that question. Once you start a business as an entrepreneur, please try to see the business as if you are an employee. So you are the CEO of that business. You are just an employee. Do you understand? The business is the business, you are you, right? Collect your salary. So I almost made the mistake when we were starting out at Prosperis. I was going to pay myself significantly less than what I was being paid for from my employment. And my group CEO told me then that no, your time is worth that. So even if the business cannot pay you that much, accrue for it. It's a business. Accrue for it, exchange it for shares, let them pay you when the business has money. So you need to separate yourself totally from the business and let the business raise capital for its expansion while you collect all your entitlement that is worth your time. Do you understand? If you are subsidizing yourself for the business, and you don't separate it, that is when people get completely emotional about the business. So please remove your money, pay yourself. If you need to buy a house, build a house for yourself, it is you, Bright. The business is not you. They are totally two different people. I don't know whether I've been able to answer the question. So the idle fund, if it's idle fund, I mean, in the proper term, right, is retained earnings. So you've done your accounting very well. The business has gone from revenue to PBT, right? And I mean, the return, you pay your taxes, you pay bonuses to your staff, you pay dividend to shareholder. If you own it 100%, pay yourself dividend. Don't always roll everything, because, you know, a business has a lot of risk element around it that people don't envisage. Risk elements like taxes. Do you understand? You can be called by the tax authority and all the money that you are keeping can be frozen, right? You can be sued on that business because it's an entity. So pay yourself, let the business be this business. If you want to capitalize it in the proper way that the business should be capitalized. But not all the money that should go to you should go to the business. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kayode. Mercy, there are so many people online asking, well, so many people, as in I've seen 2 or 3 people asking to reach you. Mercy, can you please share your contact with, can you put it in the chat box? You know, I did say you mentor, you know, business, small business owners or what. I think some people want to reach you for that. It's also part of the giving back that the SMP35 is doing. So it's either I ask them to send an email to Finance Coach, or you want to share your contacts, in the chat box. Thank you so much. There is Omowumi Oyeleke. We cannot take your question on the call, but I think you need some hand holding. If you do send an email to financecoachtoday@gmail.com or financecoachbk@gmail.com, I can connect you to Mrs. Sami Orumbe. You need to be coached, not only for retirement planning because she is below 30, but also how to be financially fit and make all the sacrifices that Kayode is talking about, so that you can grow wealth ahead of your retirement. I would like, have you put it there, Mercy? Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Kayode said about the question that was raised by Bright. Sometimes too, I'm a business advisor, and sometimes if you feel you have a loose fund somewhere, you don't want to keep cash in the bank. Sometimes I advise some of the SMEs I work with, if you can invest such money instead of being idle into machinery that you may need. It can be generator, it can be anything. Just keep it there. Tomorrow, it can cost higher, 30% higher, 40% higher than when you bought it like a few months ago. There's a generator I bought last year. I had loose fund and I didn't know what to do with the money. So I just bought a generator, Fireman. with remote, just kept it there. And it has grown 50%. And I have not unpacked the generator, it's just somewhere there. And honestly, it's not for profit. I just felt this money, some people, all these village people, they can know when you have money in your account, and they can send you SMS of one need or the other. Say, let me pay a year now. And the price of those generators, you can tell some of these funds in machinery, it can be anything. And anytime you need it, you liquidate such a machinery or equipment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mercy. I just can't thank you enough for this program this evening. Thank you so much. We have 10 more minutes. I will just ask Madam Young and maybe Kayode one more question each, and then I will get the president of the Alumni Association to come give us a vote of thanks. So, Madam Young, there's one question. I have so many questions here. Oh, I'm just trying to get as much as I can out of you, because I know normally we're supposed to be paying for this. Now, insurance, medical insurance, insurance over property, insurance over assets, all sorts of insurance. I want you to speak to the word insurance. And for people who are in active service, active business, pre-retirement, and who are retired, I want you to speak to the word insurance, the importance of insurance to all these categories of people. And then there's a question in the box. Somebody's asking a specific question about which HMO caters for retirees. I don't know if there's any that caters specifically for retirees, but they may have plans for retirees. So yes, ma'am, insurance, how important is it?
Oh, insurance, I mean, it's really important. I mean, I used to work for an insurance group, so of course. Yeah. So, I mean, for life, for your home, for your business, because look at it this way, you're coming into a season of life where you have to be very mindful of the expenditure, because this is also a period where you may not be earning so much more, or for some, they may not be earning any much more, right? So the last thing you want to do is spend your retirement funds replacing any lost assets or whatever. So it's very important that you keep your home at, really, you have beneficiaries, you have people that, if something happens to you, what do you do? People say, oh, I mean, life insurance, I mean, the same way people feel about will, writing a will. Well, you should take out a life insurance policy. There's one already that covers you under your pension scheme. So thank God for that. But you should also take out another insurance scheme for yourself, for all your assets, whether personal or business, because replacement comes at a cost. And when you are trying to secure your retirement funds, the last thing you want to do is deplete it by using it to replace any, loss in assets. And for HMO, I mean, there are some HMOs that have senior plans for people above 50, 60, up to 70, 80, and so forth. I usually would not be able to mention names, and I don't think I should, but if you contact me privately, I would definitely point you in the right direction, because that is where you want to be, where the emphasis is on the issues that have to do with yourself at that season of life, not antenatal and things like that.
Thank you very much, madam. Now we have shared the contact, the online contact details for Ian, but I want to encourage people around the call. I can see we're about 93. Some of us are at senior management level in organizations. Some of us are chief executives, and some of us are in a position where we can influence decisions. When I was transitioning from paid employment to self-employment about 5 years ago, the organization I was working for sent us on a 3-day offboarding workshop, and it's made so much impact in my life that I'm forever grateful to that organization. So if you are in a position to recommend this kind of conversation, what Madam Yang is doing with Bloomberg's platform and Averty, please recommend to your employers. And I'm saying this because I think in mid-December, I have to speak to a group of people in one of the top pharmaceutical companies in Nigeria. And honestly, when I finished and it was Q&A session, because they were talking about preparing them for life in retirement and everything, there was a gentleman that was so angry that I thought if it wasn't a virtual event, he would have given me a few knocks or maybe a few slaps. He was quite angry, and his anger was, why are they waiting till now? Why are they waiting till 3 years? Why are they telling them? Why is he just hearing all these things and talking about financial fitness, investing right, earning more, saving well, the money mistakes to avoid, all the things I was talking about. And guess what? The lady that, invited me to speak to the organization, she now said, don't mind him, Jerry. He's a chartered accountant. Can you believe that? He's a chartered accountant, and 3 years to retirement. He was very, very angry that he was hearing, about investment opportunities, about how to save well, how to, he was clearly angry. And that's the reason I'm encouraging people around the call, take this message. Take the advantage of hearing it now and take it to your organizations. And sometimes we think that we're paying a lot for things like this, but at the end of the day, the value you get is very, very small. The value you get is so much more than what you pay for it. Thank you, Madam Yang. I'm sure that my presido will still do the vote of thanks. Thank you very much. Oh, the last question before we call Dr. Dawn. 3 things, just 2 to 3 things, 2 to 3 money mistakes that anybody, either 30 and below, 30 to 50, or in retirement, or maybe because it's a retirement program. Can you just tell us 3 things that people planning retirement or in retirement must not do? 3 money mistakes that they must not make. There's still so much to talk about, but we have to wrap up. Kayode, that's for you.
All right, thank you very much. 3 mistakes. There's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. I read when I was starting up my career. You are an engineer, right? And they call you to come and start something you don't understand around finances. Don't do it. You are in a room, you've worked for 20-something years, and they're talking about something where you invest your wealth. And you don't even understand. You are just doing the investment based on trust. Please don't do it. Or based on, what do you call it? There's the way that, okay, it's like, I know Mrs. Yang and Mrs. Yang has absolutely integrity. Please don't transfer that absolute integrity of knowing somebody to another person close to them that you don't know, right? Always understand what you want to put your money into. Second thing, if you want to do risky investment, do it in your 30s. That's risky investment is somebody starting a business, and you want to do crypto. Do you understand? You want to, those things that are very risky, right? And if you don't know what are risky, you can check on the internet. They will tell you those ones that are risky. The ones that are risky are the ones that gives you high returns, right? When you are just past 40, start slowing down on risky investments, right? At 50, don't do it. If there are many things you can invest that make sense. You can buy, stocks on the market of companies that have been listed for the past 40 years. You can invest in Nigerian federal government bond. All right, now, do you understand? You can invest in treasury bills. You can put your money in financial institutions. You can put your money in foreign currency, right? But don't put your money, don't transfer trust, don't invest in things you don't understand. If you don't understand it, there are many things you will make money from that you understand anyway. Wait for those ones and invest in them, right? Don't think, oh, it was doing like this, is returning high, something. Don't do it. Check well. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Kaide. Thank you very much. Now, this program has been brought to you this evening hosted by the Finance Coach BK platform in collaboration with the retirement planning queen herself, Mrs. Inyang Sami Orumbe, and powered by the alumni of SMP35 of Lagos Business School. Thank you so much to Friends of Finance Coach platform from Port Harcourt, from Ottawa, from Lusaka, Zambia, Alina Susan, thank you so much, I see you. And our good friends from other parts of Canada and the US, thank you so much. Dapo, do you want to say something before Dr. Dawn? You're muted, Dapo.
Hi. No, I just want to say a big thank you to Ms. Inyang, to Father, to Mercy, to everyone to be part of this program. Thank you so very much. It's really been a delight. Just from a thought to live experience, it's really good to have this experience, and looking forward to the impact of this session in the lives of everyone that has been part of this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dapo. Dapo has been, we call our officials life officials because we have not had any election of the alumni group. Dapo is the honorary secretary, and he's doing a lot coordinating and making sure that SMP35 alumni makes impact in the society. Dr. Dawn, can you unmute yourself? I'm inviting Dr. Dawn Obona to give the vote of thanks. He is the president, he's a life president until we take another election or have another election of the SMP35 group. Dr. Dawn, can you unmute yourself? I promoted you to, okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My joy, my excitement at this program knows no bounds. My job has been taught and made easy. I would say Pastor B, as well as I call her Pastor B, that's the coach herself, Pastor Bimbo. She's been a very great beacon of support and what we do at SMP35, right from 2009 when we gathered together. 2009 SMP35 is such a unique group. We are unique in the sense that a lot of resources are found or embedded in this group. I'm so excited seeing that some of the speakers here and contributors in this program are homemade SMP35. But this appreciation is not for you guys because you just done what we are called out to do. I will start by thanking Mrs. Inyang. Madam Sami Orumbe, you are great. You are such a great facilitator. From the feedback we are getting from participants, I can see that you guys have done a great job. You've done justice to the subject matter. I can't thank you enough for finding time to share with us something you have passion doing and something you've done so well. And I believe that after this, so many of us will follow you. And please don't get tired of us knocking and calling on you for mentoring, support, guidance, and all of that. Thank you very much, madam. To our own father, we call her father, we call him father. Kayode has been great resource person, capital markets operator. Kayode has done a lot in investment banking. He has spoken to the topic, done justice to it as well. I saw him, doing midfield job, taking questions and carrying them and building up answers to questions. K, Father, thank you very much for finding time. And you belong to so many alumni associations, so many classes of LBS Alumni Association, but the mother of them all is SMP35.
SMP35.
Yes, it all started from us, and I'm happy you are still part and parcel of what we do. I want to also thank Mercy When we're on campus, we call her merciless Mercy. Mercy gets on it, and Mercy is on it. Mercy is on it, Mercy is on it. You don't have a choice but to listen to Mercy. And it's been said how we got where we are today, a conversation that started. I didn't have opportunity today to share my experience because maybe I'm probably the oldest in this class. So above 60. So I have a lot to share. But this conversation just got started. Because one area we didn't give so much attention in this, I'm always bothered about, limitations in research, limitation in this work. The limitation here for me is that with this presentation today focused more on some of us that are from the private sector, some of us that, have PFAs and contributions that we can readily fall back to, and we have. But there are a good number of people in this country that do not have this privilege. Those are the people that are in the SMEs and even the micro organizations. And their number is quite huge. How do they retire? What do they retire into? That's a conversation for another day. And also, even for those who are in the civil service, in the states, these are people who are dying on queues to even have their retirement benefits. How do we deal with such issues? What about the government, the bigger employer of labor? How do we get them into this conversation and see how retirement could make sense to people? So we just have started this conversation, and I believe that the speakers today have done justice to this, and things can only get better. Just hook up to SMP35. There are a lot more we have in our offering to offer as I give back. Thank you everyone for coming, and for attendees who found time, like something of us who are here today, and those who registered. Thank you, and thank you for finding time to join us. And I believe it has worth your while. And when next week come calling, we'll find you attending. Thank you everyone. A great time we've had, and I don't think my colleagues, SMP35, have disappointed us. We can only do better next time. Thank you, and God bless all of us for attending.